In the Predator clan, strength is not just an ability, but a rule that determines life and death. From the moment a warrior comes of age, he must constantly prove that he deserves to survive. Yet, in such a ruthless tribe, Dek has always been considered the weakest. To prove himself, he approaches a massive cavern in search of his brother Kwai for a trial, stepping inside with great caution. After running a scan, he discovers that his brother is hidden somewhere inside the cave, and the next moment, the invisible Kwai materializes behind him. The two immediately engage in a fierce battle, but the weaker Dek is pushed back again and again, completely unable to match his brother. Eventually, he is forced to the edge of a cliff, where Kwai strikes the rock with a single blow, sending Dek falling and ending the trial in failure once more. Kwai then brings Dek aboard his spacecraft. To help Dek become the strongest in the clan, Kwai activates the ship's holographic display and tells him about the Death Star Genna. On that world exists an unkillable creature known as the Kalisk, a monster so fearsome that even their father dreads it. If Dek can slay this ultimate life form, he will become the strongest warrior of the tribe. As the two talk, their father arrives in his own ship. Seeing the figure he admires most approaching, Dek slices open his palm to express his highest respect. But his father ignores him entirely, and instead demands to know why Kwai failed to execute the weakling. Kwai tries to request one final chance for Dek to hunt the Kalisk and prove himself, but their father refuses to believe the weakest could ever succeed. Any weakness must be eliminated. As he speaks, he throws out a cage device that traps Dek instantly. Following his father's command, Kwai reluctantly draws the plasma short blade from his waist, preparing to execute the brother he loves most. But at the final moment, his blade slices through the cage instead, pulling Dek into his ship while blocking their father's fatal strike. He then uses the controller on his arm to seal the hatch and lock Dek inside, an act that makes their father believe Kwai has also become a weakness to the clan. Through the sealed hatch, Dek watches with his own eyes as Kwai battles their father, but Kwai is ultimately no match and soon has his arm severed. Gravely wounded, he struggles toward his severed limb while his father's blade comes down mercilessly. In his final moment, Kwai presses the switch on the detached arm. With a deafening blast, the ship ignites and blasts upward, shooting into space. Not long after, the ship plunged into Genna's atmosphere, and its hull was damaged by meteor strikes, forcing Dek to activate the ejection seat immediately. He then plummeted toward the ground and crashed hard upon impact. Rising to his feet, Dek made a firm decision. He would bring back the corpse of the Kalisk to avenge his brother. He began checking his weapons and preparing to search for the creature, unaware that a vine had emerged behind him. Alert, Dek gripped his spear and searched the surroundings, but another vine appeared and stole all of his weapons. As he turned around, yet another vine suddenly snatched at him, and when he drew his plasma short blade, his arm was immediately grabbed. He barely managed to cut himself free, yet countless vines in the forest rose up endlessly, surrounding him completely. He quickly set his sights on a distant stone wall and used the vines as footholds to leap onto it, finally escaping their pursuit. Standing on the stone wall, Dek overlooked this unfamiliar land, seeing only strange and dangerous creatures everywhere. He roughly treated the wound on his arm, and upon spotting a small bug nearby, he grabbed it for food, only for the bug to swell rapidly and explode the moment he threw it. Soon after, he reached a patch of tall grass where monster corpses lay scattered on the ground, and red-thorned plants grew densely among the foliage. Just as Dek wondered what they were, a voice suddenly called out from behind him. It was a cyborg trapped on the planet, and before Dek could determine her intentions, a large flying creature swooped down, grabbed a stone, and dropped it beside him. The startled plants detonated instantly, sending poisonous spikes flying. The cyborg urgently warned him that these plant spikes were extremely toxic and that the flying creature used them to weaken its prey before consuming it. She offered to help Dek deal with the flying creature, but asked for his assistance in freeing her. Dek initially insisted on hunting alone, but the moment she mentioned the Kalisk, he hesitated. At that moment, the flying creature dropped 2 more stones, and unable to dodge in time, Dek was struck by the poisonous spikes, feeling the world spin around him instantly. He hurriedly pulled out the throwing blade from his arm, preparing to deliver a final strike at the flying creature. But, to his misfortune, the blade landed right beside the cyborg. On the verge of losing consciousness, Dek could no longer resist and was mere moments away from becoming the creature's meal. At the critical moment, the freed cyborg lunged at the flying creature, knocking it away and killing it. When Dek regained consciousness, he realized the toxins in his body had already been removed. Grabbing the cyborg by the collar, he was shocked to discover that she had only half a body. She introduced herself as Sia, a construct developed by the Weyland-Yutani Corporation and sent to this death world for exploration and research. She proposed cooperating with Dek, promising that if he took her along, she could lead him directly to the Kalisk's nest. However, among the predator race, hunting had always been done alone, and relying on outside assistance was considered a deep shame. Saya explained that she was merely an auxiliary tool, not a carbon-based life form, and therefore did not violate the clan's rules. After some thought, Dek accepted her reasoning. Along the way, they encountered a spitting bug capable of ejecting highly corrosive fluid. As Dek panicked, Sia threw out a type of food to distract the creature, allowing the two of them to slip through the canyon safely. After a long journey, the two arrived at a field of silvery grass, home to a creature called the bone bison, which fed exclusively on the silver-white plants. Dek was preparing to hunt them for food, when the grass-sliced open blades were as sharp as countless tiny knives. Shia explained that this plant was known as razor grass, and charging straight through it would shred him to pieces. The only option was to go around the area. At that moment, a small monkey-like creature suddenly leaped down behind them and dove straight into the razor grass, startling the bone bison. Unwilling to lose his chance, Dek moved quickly with Sia through the trees, timed his moment, and leapt onto the creature's back, only to be thrown off immediately and slammed hard onto the ground. The small monkey continued its chase with astonishing speed. Dek tried to subdue this unexpected competitor first, but in the middle of the struggle, Sia warned him that the bone bison was about to charge. In the moment of danger, Dek quickly drew his plasma short blade and hurled it at the creature, slicing the bone bison cleanly in half in an instant. But before he could celebrate, a tentacle wrapped around Dek and lifted him into the air. The octopus-like beast opened its massive maw, ready to swallow them both. Just as they were about to be eaten, the small monkey leapt into its mouth, using its hardened back to crack the creature's teeth. Howling in pain, the octopus monster dropped its prey and launched another furious pursuit. But it didn't get far before the octopus beast caught the monkey and held it tightly. At that moment, Dek had an idea. He chopped down a large tree, used it as leverage, and launched himself onto the monster's back. With one decisive strike to its brain, the creature collapsed loudly onto the ground. Later that night, the three found a place to build a fire and rest. The small monkey suddenly spat on Dek, and Sia explained that this meant he had been accepted and marked by the creature's group. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Saya's sister Tessa awakened inside a repair pod, and the system reassigned her mission: capture the Kalisk and locate the missing Saya. Tessa soon discovered Dek's crashed ship in the forest, and upon entering it, she found many predator weapons, especially a metal sphere capable of releasing freezing vapor, which immediately caught her attention. Early the next morning, Dek continued the journey with Saya, deliberately not waking the sleeping small monkey. After several more days of travel, the two finally reached an industrial ruin, where Saya at last found her missing lower body. She rushed into a medical pod to begin reattaching it, and during the repair process, she told Dek that she had already notified her sister Tessa, who was now on her way. Sia did not believe Dek could kill the Kalisk alone, and proposed that they work together to slay their target. But Dek insisted that even dying in battle was a warrior's honor. He stepped out of the medical pod and ignited the gasoline spilled on the ground, using the violent explosion to lure the Kalisk. Soon the creature arrived, its enormous presence overwhelming. With just one clash, Dek was sent flying, and his plasma short blade was snapped in half. Dek charged forward again, sliding beneath the creature and slicing open its navel, but the Kalisk felt no pain at all. Spotting another opening, he severed its tail with a single swing, only to watch it regenerate instantly. The regrown tail then wrapped tightly around him and smashed him directly into Sia, shattering the legs she had just finished reattaching. Furious, Saya grabbed a gun from the ground and fired repeatedly at the Kalisk. Dek seized the moment and hurled a hooked chain into its mouth, temporarily restraining it. Using the opening, he leapt high with his plasma short blade and sliced off the Kalisk's head, believing the fight to be over. To his shock, the Kalisk's body and head reattached themselves, and it stomped down on Dek. But then, it caught the scent of the small monkey on him. In that instant of distraction, a metal grenade rolled toward them, freezing both the Kalisk and Dek in an instant. Tessa and her squad had arrived. When Dek awoke again, he found himself restrained inside a transport vehicle, while Sia had been switched into standby. After reactivating her, Tessa explained that the Kalisk's regenerative abilities could be brought back to Earth to benefit all of humanity, and that Dek was merely an unexpected bonus. But as Tessa began extracting Dek's genetic material, Sia claimed he had no research value and forcibly cut the power, shocking Tessa. At that moment, a subordinate arrived with orders from higher command, requesting Tessa to report Predator-related data. Once Tessa left, the remaining cyborgs continued examining Deck's gear, giving him the chance to trick one of them into pressing a button, triggering an explosion. Taking advantage of the chaos, Sia unlocked Deck's restraints and opened the hatch to let him escape. By the time Tessa returned, he was already gone. Since Sia had no legs and could not flee, Tessa captured her and transported her back to the base, where she was imprisoned. At this moment, Deck understood that if he wanted to bring the Kalisk back to the clan, he had to break into the base where Tessa was stationed. But upon returning to his ship, he realized all the weapons had been removed by Tessa. Only his brother's helmet remained. So he devised a plan. He returned to the Razorgrass field to gather blades, packed large quantities of explosive bugs, snapped off the talons of flying creatures to make spiked traps, and finally used food to tame a spitter bug. To his surprise, the small monkey was crouching in the Kalisk's footprints, making Deck realize that the little creature was actually the Kalisk's offspring. He spat toward the monkey in acknowledgement, and the monkey immediately accepted him as a companion. Deck then lifted the heavy object, pinning down Sia's legs, and, following the moving limbs, made his way through the guards, defeating them one by one. Just as Deck was about to be exposed, the small monkey leapt out and eliminated the guard flawlessly. In perfect coordination between man and monkey, they continued breaking through the enemy's defenses. Meanwhile, Sia's legs were far from idle. They not only dispatched guards easily, but also immediately lay flat and played dead when needed. After reuniting, Deck excitedly told Sia that the small monkey was actually the Kalisk's child. They then devised a plan. Xia would rescue the Kalisk, while Deck would confront Tessa for revenge. He casually pressed the alarm button beside him. Soon, a squad of cyborgs arrived, unaware that Deck had already filled the area with explosive bugs. As the spitter bug launched its corrosive attack, the entire group of cyborgs was blown into pieces. Deck finally faced Tessa, who arrived in a massive mech suit, with predator weapons she had taken from his ship mounted on her shoulder, already aimed at Deck's forehead. In the moment of crisis, the spitter bug on Deck's body launched itself forward and blocked the fatal strike. Losing his companion sent Deck into a furious rage, but against a steel giant, he was as helpless as an ant. Just then, Sia secretly released the Kalisk, bringing the ruler of the Death Planet into the battle. The clash between the Kalisk and the mech shook the ground itself. During the fierce fight, Tessa used a chainsaw to pierce directly through the Kalisk's body, temporarily incapacitating it. Seeing this, Deck climbed onto the side of the mech and tore out its cables, instantly cutting off the chainsaw's power. The Kalisk seized the opportunity to counterattack, and the mech was quickly crushed to pieces. Tessa was ultimately swallowed whole. After the battle, the small monkey reunited with its mother and even formally introduced Deck to her. Suddenly, the Kalisk let out a pained roar as its body froze solid and exploded. Tessa had activated a freezing bomb from inside its stomach. As Tessa crawled out, preparing to kill Sia as well, Deck stabbed her through the body from behind, reclaiming the weapon his brother left him. The small monkey then tore off Tessa's head, avenging its mother. Months later, Deck returned to his clan and threw Tessa's head before his father, declaring the hunt complete. But his father refused to acknowledge the victory and instead ordered 2 warriors to execute it. Deck, now reborn in strength, killed them both in a single blow. Deck then began his true battle of vengeance against his father. Confronted with his father's cloaking armor, Deck cleverly activated the ship, stirring up dust that revealed his father's outline. He severed his father's arm with a single strike, trapped him using the stolen cage device, and finally sliced off his father's helmet. As his father continued to babble defiantly, Deck gave no reply. Instead, he signaled the small monkey, which bit off his father's head, avenging both Deck and his brother. At that moment, an unknown spaceship appeared in the distance, clearly unfriendly, and the film ends there.